Hey all, this is me, Hack, and in this video we will be talking about LFI, local file inclusion. Uh, So, so what is like local file inclusion? So, LFI, which stands for local file inclusion, is a security vulnerability that occurs when an application includes a file, but the path to that file is not properly validated. An attacker can exploit this vulnerability to include files on the server through the web browser, or they can read local files or system configuration of the web server. So how it works, like we will explore this how it works part later while going through our labs, right? So now common causes for LFI. So common cause for LFI is like mostly it's like insufficient input validation. So failing to validate and sanitize user input allows malicious um okay, so I need to make change over here. So allows an attacker to read local files or do other bunch of shenanigans. So in this, like, let's just take a code over here which I have. So PHP if statement, then over here, like, it basically takes a get parameter, a page is a get parameter, and it includes in the web page without any sanitization. And so, do you know like why it's bad? Because there's no input sanitization happening over here. There's no way to figure out what's a malicious output, what's a malicious input, and what's the um, good one, right? So an attacker can give something like dot dot slash etc password, and they will be able to exploit, and they will be able to read local file, or they can exploit the web server to do bunch of other shenanigans. So I have like impact over here, because some people will say like, oh, hey, like what's the use? I mean, they are, an attacker is just able to see etc password, right? Nothing other than that. But hey, like this is bad, because like an attacker can not only read file like etc password, they can read almost everything, um almost everything, not really almost everything, but a lot of files, a lot of system configuration files, right? They can even read your source code of the current application. They can exploit it. A lot of stuff can happen over here. In worst case scenario, an attacker can get can go like code execution like RCE, and there could be like potential compromise of entire system. And over here, like we see a simple LFI where an attacker is able to read etc password file. Then we have a section for tools and commands. We will explore this again like in much more detailed way while doing the labs. We have like Leafy tool, which is like an automation to find LFI. I don't think I will be covering this tool like in the lab, but here like you can definitely go and check that out. The other one is like combining JDEX with FUF with JDEX.txt. So this is not really a standalone tool. FUF is like a fuzzer. I hope like you know about it. And we are using JDEX.txt, which has a lot of payloads which we can use to fuzz a particular parameter. Again, we will go this more like in detail later on. Then we have mitigation strategies, which we will again go later during the labs, right? Now, but before that, like if you want to see, if you want to access the lab, if you want to access the slides, you can head over to like integrarecon.com, right? So, slash shortcuts, and you can access the slide for LFI by clicking on it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is like I will just clear my screen. I have like a file called index.php. I can probably show the source code over here, um, which will be we can see like a fairly simple code with some HTML, right? And the main like important part is over here, which is our PHP code. So again, like the last time, we see a get parameter, which is being used to include, which is being used to include, which is without any sanitization. It's without using any sort of a sanitization. It's including local files on the on a web application, right? So what I'm gonna do is I will start a simple PHP server, PHP minus s 0.0.0.0 like this 8000, and I will just open this link. Okay, sweet. So what I'm gonna do, so in an actual web application will look a lot better than this, right? But let's just think like it's a some sort of a company which we are pen testing, and they have a navigation bar, something like that. And over here, like if you click on about, it redirects you to about page. If you click on contacts, it redirects you to contact page, something like that, right? Okay, sweet. So what we as a malicious user can, or as an attacker can do is we can do something like dash dash slash like this, and I can go give something like etc password. So if you don't know like what dot dot slash is, it's like basically saying like just go like one directory backwards. So in this case, like it was not enough, we need to include more dot dot slash. So it will say like go one directory backwards like this. I need to do this thing like multiple times till I see our etc password file, and yeah, we are able to see. We can probably read our etc password file from here, right? So we can see etc password file. We can read a lot of other system configuration files. We can read the source code, stuff like that. But again, the goal is to keep things as simple as possible. I will not be exploring PHP filters, some other things, right? So let's just take a moment to explain, understand like what this dot dot slash is, right? So I will go ahead and stop my server. I can clear my screen. So cd, if we do cd dash dash dash, it will take one directory back like this. So earlier, like I was in integer ctf slash LFI directory. Now when I did cd dash dash dot dot slash, it will take us one directory backwards. So if I do this again, cd dot dot, it will take us to another directory backwards. And if I do pwd, so earlier like I started with integer ctf slash LFI directory. Then when I did cd dot dot slash, which took us to one directory backwards, which was integer ctf. And when we did this same thing again, I was in home slash a directory, right? Now if I do this thing again, I will be one directory back, which will be home pwd. If I do, I will be in home directory. If I do this again, I will be in the root directory, something like this. So dot dot slash means like it just takes one directory backwards. I hope I was able to clear it out. Now the next thing which we're gonna do will be to explore the labs, right? So I will go back to the mitigation strategies and tools and command part soon, right? So let's just go ahead and do some ports figure labs over here. So we will be doing two of the labs, the one file path traversal attack and the second one. So I will open this thing, open the lab, and I can access the lab, right? And I will just copy the URL over here. By the way, you do need Bob Suite. If you don't know about Bob Suite, you can probably go ahead and Google about it and you can install it. But I will assume that you have enough knowledge how to use Bob Suite over here. So I will copy the URL. I will go to Bob Suite. If you click on open browser, like it will open a Chromium browser over here. Let me just close the tabs, right, like this. I will open the browser. By the way, like if it keeps loading, you might wanna intercept off. So now what we're gonna do will be, we will just explore this web server or the site. So we see view details option. We see a get parameter called 1. We can try something like SQL injection, but again, this is not something which I will be covering in this video because it's a whole new different vulnerability. But since we have studied about LFI in this video, we will try to exploit something like LFI. Just see. We can do something like this. etc password. We will do etc password. And it says like invalid password ID, which is okay. Can we click and open this image? Okay, we can do. So we do see a file name parameter, get parameter, file name, and it opens like a 21.jpg file. Okay, sweet. Now we can do the same thing over here, dot slash like this, and I can do something like etc password, and hopefully it should work. So looks like it did. So now what I'm gonna do is I can probably try to curl it. Just let me go back to integrity of directory. I can curl it out, and yeah, so our attack worked in this case. Like we were able to read etc password, which was a local file. We can do a lot of stuff with LFI, like we can read the source code of the application. In worst case scenario, we can try something like RFI, or we can do a lot of other stuff, right? But this is not the goal of this video. So we are able to exploit in something like LFI over here. Now let's just go back to our slides, and I told that the other tool which we're gonna explore will be this tool too. So okay, so we will go and try this thing on second lab, right? I can probably access the lab, close this thing. It will take a minute to load. So here again, like if you want to access the slide, you can probably go to integraticon.com/shortcuts and you can check the slides. Okay, so our application has loaded. Now I will copy the URL and I will go back to my Chromium based browser. I can open it. Again, I will do the same thing. Open this image one more time, and I will try something like my older payload one more time over here, which was dot slash things like this, password over here, and we see no such file. Okay, this is cool. So what I'm gonna do is like I will use fuff, which is a fuzzer, and jdx.txt, which is a word list. So I will clear my screen, clear, and I will do like ffuf, then url -u for url. You will put your URL, and we will remove this payload, and over here like we will give fuzz as a like a I forgot the name. Like it was like we will give fuzz, which will tell the application to take everything from the jdx.txt and paste it over here in a very simple word. So I will specify my word list using -telu, and I can do jdx. Should be like this, right? jdx dot. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the file name is LFI, and it should hopefully work. By the way, like if you run something like fuff, you might see some false positive, and there's a good way to deal with it. So so over here like we can see our results, and they don't look like false positive because they have different size. Like over here it's 7279, the other one is 3269. So if you see if you run this thing on some run this thing on some other application, and you see like a lot of response which has like the same size, for example 7279, and just suppose that this thing also has 7279, the thing goes for like almost all, or like there's like a lot of files which are having the same size, there's a good chance that it might be a false positive, and you can use the filter things of to clear it out. Again, this is not a tutorial for FUF, this is a tutorial for LFI, right? So it looks like we can indeed read local files. So what I'm gonna do is like I will copy the URL, curl again. Okay, so let me just copy the URL, curl like this, and at the place of FUF I'm gonna specify this thing, this file name, and can we read it? Okay, sweet. So we are indeed able to read it, and we're able to read like Apache's config file. So here, like this is the reason why LFI is not a good vulnerability to have on your application. an attacker could read a lot of sensitive information. So we were indeed able to do the lab. So I will go back and we will explore the mitigation strategies. So like input validation. So I gave, or I should say like I show you. So I had like two different codes, right? I showed like how and why those codes were a bad example, because none of them had input validation. Like this code, this had no input validation. So yeah, so for mitigation strategies, you we need input validation in a application. So input validation is something which will filter and clean user input, and it will remove any characters which could lead to directory traversal, like dot dot slash, thing like this. Then we can probably create something like whitelisting, where we can whitelist valid page names and only allow specified say file path of file names, and we could reject anything else. Then we can also try something like absolute paths. Like instead of relying on relative paths, you can use something like absolute paths to define the file equation. Again, like if none of them is like bulletproof and will prevent LFI. So if you only have something like whitelisting and you don't have like things like input validation, and attacker could potentially like get in LFI. If you have something like using only absolute path, an attacker can get LFI. If you have input validation but it's not good enough, an attacker can get LFI. So yeah, it's something. If you're a developer, you do need to take a look on it. You can probably check something like WASP to know a little bit more about it. But yeah, this was it for the today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope like I was able to explain stuff in a simple and engaging manner. I hope you liked it and have a great day. Bye.